Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sports Source, your number one source of sports. And today we're talking about the best duo in NBA history that no one really seems to be talking about. But before we do that, smash that like button and subscribe for more NBA news and discussions. Without further ado, let's begin the video. So, when you think of NBA duos, a couple duos come to mind. The first one being Jordan and Pippen. So, Michael Jordan being the best player in NBA history, in my opinion, and he's kind of like the Batman in this scenario. Then we also have Scottie Pippen, who is the best sidekick ever in NBA history, in my opinion, and he's more like a Robin. They just complemented each other so well. They won a lot together. Then you got another duo like Kobe and Shaq, who, were the last duo, the last team to three-peat, and, they were just so dominant offensively and defensively. And, they were just such a fun team to watch and just such a fun duo to watch. And then you got a more modern one like D. Wade and LeBron. And they won a couple of rings together. They had very, very good chemistry. And it's more of the modern. So if you're a modern NBA fan, that's probably the duo you think of the most when you're talking about NBA duos. And then, of course, you got the last one. You got Stockton and Malone, who, one of the greatest passers of all time with one of the greatest scorers of all time. Both very endurable and just had long careers, but they never really won a ring together, which is one thing that held their legacy back. And with each of these duos, their legacy is held back by something. But the duo I'll be talking about, their duo, their legacy, individually and as a group, isn't really held back by anything. Because if you look at the Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan, it's like, oh, so what would Scottie Pippen be without MJ? Then you look at Kobe and Shaq, then it's like, did Kobe get carried and is his legacy heightened because of Shaq? By how much? And then you also got D. Wade and LeBron, where it's like, where does Dwayne Wade finish all time if it wasn't for LeBron? And just where would Dwayne Wade have an MVP? Did LeBron hurt or, affect Dwayne Wade's career in a critical, good way? And are Stockton and Malone really that good, or how well did they feed off each other? And is their greatness, questioned because of, them just feeding off each other so nicely? And if they were in different scenarios, how would that team and how would their careers play out? But this duo that I'm going to be talking about doesn't really have those concerns. And the duo I'm going to be talking about is Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. This is such a good duo. You got two top 5 players of all time. And I'm just going to be going through each of their seasons together, what they did individually, what they did as a team, and then we're going to determine if they are the best duo in NBA history. So, in their first season together, in the 1970 and 1980 season, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was already 32, and he had some previous success with the Milwaukee Bucks, winning, MVPs and already winning a championship, and Magic Johnson was entering his first season in the NBA. Now, as for team success, they went 60-22, and they actually won the championship that year. As for Kareem, he won the MVP that year. He was an all-star. He was on the All-NBA first team and the All-Defensive first team, and he also led the league in blocks. As for his stats, he averaged 24.8 points per game, 10.8 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 1 steal, 3.4 blocks, and that's 3.4 blocks led the league in blocks, as well as shooting 60% from the field. And in the playoffs that season, he just had a monster playoffs. He averaged 31.9 points per game in the playoffs, 12.1 rebounds, 3.1 assists, 1.1 steals, 3.9 blocks, and shot 57% from the field. As for Magic Johnson in this season, he was the Finals MVP as a rookie, and he is the only player to ever do that, and the most recent player to ever do that because he's the only one. He was an all-star that season as well. He was on the All-NBA rookie first team, and he averaged 18 points, 7.7 rebounds, 7.3 assists, 2.4 blocks, half a block a game, and shot 50% from the field. As for the playoffs, he averaged 18.3 points, 10.5 rebounds, 9.4 assists, 3.1 steals, half a block a game, and shot 52% from the field. So their first season together was pretty well. I mean, Kareem won the MVP, they won the championship, everything was going well. But the second season, it didn't go as well in the 1980 and 1981 season. They still went 54-28 in the regular season, but they were a first-round exit that year. As for Kareem, he didn't win an MVP, but he was an all-star. He was on the All-NBA first team and All-Defensive first team. For his stats, he averaged 26.2 points per game, 10.3 rebounds, 3.4 assists, 0.7 steals, and 2.9 blocks a game, while shooting 57% from the field. As for the playoffs, they only played 3 games because they lost in the playoffs in the first round, but in the playoffs, he averaged 26.7 points per game, 16.7 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, 2.7 blocks, and he only shot 46% from the field, which isn't as good as he normally does. As for Magic Johnson, he was the steals leader this season in his second year in the NBA, but he wasn't an all-star or anything because he was actually injured at the end of the season, and he only played 37 games. But in those 37 games, he averaged 21.1 points per game, and then he got 8.6 rebounds, 8.6 assists a game, with 3.4 steals, which I said before he led the league in steals that season, and also 0.7 blocks, with shooting 53% from the field. As for the playoffs, again, he only played 3 games and they got eliminated in the first round, but he did average 17 points, 14 rebounds, 7 assists, 2.7 blocks, 1 block a game, and 39% from the field, which was not good at all, and one of the big reasons why they lost in that first round and didn't win a championship. Now, in their third season together during the 1981-1982 season, they won 57 games and they lost 25 with a record of 57-25, and they actually won the championship that season. As for Kareem, he was an all-star that season. Those were the only accolades he had. But for statistics, he averaged 23.9 points per game, 8.7 rebounds, 3 assists, 0.8 steals, 2.7 blocks, and shot 58% from the field. As for the playoffs, he averaged 20.4 points per game, 8.5 rebounds, 3.6 assists, 1 steal a game with 2.7 blocks, and shot 52% from the field. As for Magic, he won the Finals MVP, and in his third season in the NBA, he already had 2 Finals MVPs under his belt. He was an All-Star, he was on the All-NBA second team, his first All-NBA selection, and he was also the league leader in steals yet again for the second time in his career. For his statistics, he averaged 18.6 points per game, 9.6 rebounds, 9.5 assists, 2.7 steals, with shooting 54% from the field. As for the playoffs, he shot 17.4 points per game, 11.3 rebounds, 9.3 assists, 2.9 steals, and shot 53% from the field. So, in their 3 seasons together, they already won 2 championships, and things were looking very good for this duo. And as you can see, many more great things came from this duo later on. Now, in their 4th season together, in the 1982 and 1983 season, they went 58-24, and they actually lost in the finals. But in that season, Kareem was an All-Star, and he was on the All-NBA second team, with putting up numbers like 21.8 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 0.8 steals, and 2.2 blocks a game, while shooting 59% from the field. As for the playoffs, he did average 27.1 points per game, 7.7 rebounds, 2.8 assists, 1.1 steal, 3.7 blocks, and shot 57% from the field. As for Magic Johnson in this season, in his 4th season in the NBA, he was an All-Star, he was on the All-NBA first team, he was the assists leader, and he put up 16.8 points per game, 8.6 rebounds, 10.5 assists, with 2.2 steals, and he also shot 55% from the field this season. As for the playoffs, he did score 17.9 points per game. He got 8.5 rebounds a game with 12.8 assists, and he also got 2.3 steals, and he shot 49% from the field in this season. Now, in their first 4 seasons together in the NBA, they won 2 championships, and they made the finals 3 times. And the success doesn't stop there, as you will see later on in the video. Now, in their 5th season together, they went 54-28, and they also lost in the NBA Finals in the 1983 and 1984 season. In this season, Kareem was an All-Star, All-NBA first team, and he also made the second team defense with putting up numbers like 21.5 points per game, 7.3 rebounds, 2.6 assists, 0.7 steals, 1.8 blocks, and shot 58% from the field. For the playoffs, he scored 23.9 points per game, 8.2 rebounds, 3.8 assists, 1.1 steals, 2.1 blocks, and shot 55% from the field. As for Magic Johnson in his 5th NBA season, he was an All-Star, All-NBA first team. He was the assists leader for the second time in his career. He put up 17.6 points per game with 7.3 rebounds and 13.1 assists, which is just crazy. He also put up 2.2 steals, 0.7 blocks, and 57% from the field. As for the playoffs, 18.2 points per game, 6.6 rebounds, 13.5 assists a game, 2 steals, 1 block, and he shot 55% from the field. Now, during the 1984 to 1985 season, they went 62-20, and they actually won the NBA championship. And you gotta remember, for this duo in this season, in the 1984-1985 season, Kareem was 37 years old, and he was slowly on the decline. And then you got Magic Johnson, who was just entering his prime, so keep that in mind. But Kareem, he's still in this season at 37 years old. He won the Finals MVP. He was an All-Star, and he also was on the All-NBA second team. As for his statistics, he averaged 22 points per game, 7.9 rebounds, 3.2 assists, 0.8 steals, 2.1 blocks, and he shot 67% from the field. As for the playoffs, he averaged 22 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, and 2 blocks a game, while shooting 56% from the field. As for Magic Johnson in this season, in his 5th NBA season, he was an All-Star, first-team All-NBA, and he also averaged 18.3 points per game, 6.2 rebounds, 12.6 assists, 1.5 steals, and he shot 56% from the field. As for the playoffs, he averaged 17.5 points per game, 7.1 rebounds, 15 assists, 2 steals, and he shot 51% from the field in this series. So, in the 5 years that they had together, they've won 3 championships, and they have also been to the finals every year except for one. So this has been pretty impressive for this duo so far, and we'll have to see what happens later with this duo. In the 1985 to 1986 season, this is Magic and Kareem's 7th season together, and they did go 62-20 in the regular season, but unfortunately in the playoffs they lost in the conference finals. As for Kareem, he was an All-Star this season, and he made the All-NBA first team. As for statistics, he averaged 23.4 points per game, 6.1 rebounds, 3.5 assists, with 0.8 steals, 1.6 blocks, and he shot 56% from the field. As for the playoffs, he averaged 26 points, 6 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 1.1 steals, 1.7 blocks, and he also shot 56% from the field in the regular season and in the playoffs. As for Magic Johnson, he was an All-Star this season. He made the All-NBA first team, and he was the assists leader in the league, and he averaged 18.8 points per game, 6 rebounds, 12.6 assists, with 1.6 steals, and he shot 53% from the field in the regular season. As for the playoffs, he averaged 21.6 points per game, 7.1 rebounds, 15 assists, 2 steals, and he shot 54% from the field. So this duo, they're showing their dominance. Kareem is just such a great scorer, and then you got Magic Johnson, who's a pretty good scorer, and he's also, as we know him today, as one of the greatest playmakers, one of the greatest passers of all time, if not the greatest. So you just see how this duo is so dominant, but there's some more dominant things that this duo still hasn't done yet that we'll be talking about right now. Now, in the 1986 to 1987 season, they went 65-17, and they won the NBA championship. Now, this is their 8th season together, and I think that this is the best season of this duo's career. Kareem was an All-Star this season, and he did have some down numbers, only putting up 17.5 points per game, 6.7 rebounds, 2.6 assists, 0.6 steals, and 1.2 blocks while shooting 56% from the field. We also have to remember that Kareem's like 38, 39 at this point, and he's still an All-Star, and he's still the second best player on the championship-winning team. That's pretty impressive. As for the playoffs, he averaged 19.2 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, with 2 blocks a game while shooting 53% from the field. And this is probably Magic Johnson's best career, as this team is a duo, because Magic Johnson in this year, he went crazy. He won a Finals MVP. He was the MVP of the whole league this year. He was an All-Star. He was on the All-NBA first team, and he was also the league leader in assists for the 4th time in his career. As for statistics, he averaged 24 points per game, 6.3 rebounds, 12.2 assists, with 1.7 steals a game while shooting 52% from the field. And as for the playoffs, he averaged 22 points per game, 7.7 rebounds, 12.2 assists, 1.7 steals while shooting 54% from the field. Now, this duo, they've already won a lot of accolades in their whole career. They've won 4 championships in 8 years. They're just such a dominant duo so far, but this duo isn't done yet because they've had 2 more seasons together that we're going to be talking about. Now, in the 1987 to 1988 season, this is their 9th season together as a duo, and they actually went 62-20, and they won yet another championship. Kareem in this season, he's on the decline because he's getting up there in age, but he still was an All-Star, and he still averaged 14.6 points per game, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 0.6 steals, 1.2 blocks, and shot 53% from the field. As for the playoffs, he averaged 14 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, 1.5 assists, with 0.6 steals a game and 1.5 blocks while shooting 46% from the field. As for Magic, he did have a down year after having his MVP, but he still had a pretty good year. He was an All-Star, and he was on the All-NBA first team once again. He averaged 19.6 points per game, 6.2 rebounds, 11.9 assists, with 1.6 steals, and he also shot 49% from the field in this season, which was the lowest of his regular season career. But in the playoffs, he averaged 20 points per game, 5.4 rebounds, 12.6 assists, 1.4 steals, and he also shot 51% from the field. Now, even though they did win the championship this season, none of them won the Finals MVP. It was actually James Worthy who won the Finals MVP this year, so that's why. But still, this is their 5th championship together in 9 years, which was just super impressive. They've both put up great accolades, but there's still one more season left that this team played together. In the 1988 to 1989 season, this is Magic and Kareem's last ever season as a duo. They went 57-25, and they lost in the NBA Finals. Kareem, he's 40 years old at this point. He is on the heavy decline. Even though he was an all-star, he only averaged 10 points per game with 4.5 rebounds, 1 assist, 0.5 steals, and a block a game while shooting 48% from the field. As for the playoffs, he shot 11 points per game, 4 rebounds, 1 assists, and he also didn't even get a block a game in the playoffs, and he also shot 46% from the field. Now, for Magic, in their last season together, Magic Johnson won the MVP. He also was injured for the All-Star game, so that was why he wasn't in the All-Star game. But yeah, he would have because he was the MVP, and that's actually why Kareem was in the All-Star game to fill in Magic Johnson's spot. And Magic Johnson, he was the first team All-NBA this season. He averaged 22.5 points per game, 8 rebounds, 12.8 assists, 1.8 steals, and shot 51% from the field this season. As for the playoffs, he averaged 18.4 points, 6 rebounds, 11.8 assists, 2 steals, and 49% from the field. Now, to sum it up, in this duo's 10-year span, they won 5 championships and made 8 finals appearances. Their worst season, they won 54 games, and their best season, they won 65 games. So this was a pretty consistent duo in the regular season. They always got it done. As for individual awards, Kareem won 1 MVP. He was a 10-time All-Star. He made the defensive team twice, and he was also on the All-NBA first team, and he also was a finals MVP in this 10-year span. As for Magic Johnson, he was a 2-time MVP, 8-time All-Star. He was a steals leader twice, and he also led the league in assists 4 times, with having the finals MVP trophy 3 times, and he was also on the first team 7 times in a row. So now I'm going to sum up, is this the greatest duo of all time? And my short answer is yes. I think this is the greatest duo of NBA history. We haven't really seen 2 top 5 players team up in NBA history, which is what this is. I think that Kareem is the 3rd best player of all time. I think that Magic Johnson is the 4th best player of all time, and these players have played together. Now, if Kareem was in his prime, because he was still putting up very good numbers, this duo was still, in my opinion, the most dominant duo of all time. But this is also a 32-year-old Kareem in their first season, and he only got older and worse when the years, passed. But if you had a younger Kareem with a younger Magic Johnson, they win way more, but they already won 5 championships and had 8 finals appearances, which is just so good. And the reason that no one really talks about this duo and why I think that, some people may forget about this duo is because, it was such a long time ago and people don't talk about it because there's duos that are more relevant to some people, like Kobe and Shaq. People remember that when they think of NBA duos. Even Stockton and Malone, they think of the pick and roll and how deadly it was and how it changed the pick and roll game. And then you think of Dwayne Wade and LeBron and how that's more of a current duo and how that's kind of shifted into this league we see now of duos and how it's so filled with great duos. So this team, this duo goes under the radar a lot of Magic and Kareem, and I think it's still the greatest duo of all time, no matter what anyone says, even though, they didn't accomplish as much and they didn't win as much as, let's say Jordan and Pippen in such a short amount of time. I still think that this is the most dominant and the best duo we have seen in NBA history. But let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Is this best duo in NBA history? Let me know. And also subscribe to join Sports Source Nation. But that's all for me now. I'll see you in the next one. Take care and goodbye.